Well, hello everyone. It's Black Mountain Talks and Mike and Yelena
Hello.
with you. And today we are going to discuss all the not all the event, but the most important events that took place in last 2 weeks. And I would like to start with NATO summit, which took place this week. And the first video I would like to play is of Jens Stoltenberg. I'm a fan of his of a kind. So here is a video what he was saying.
Agreed today in our summit declaration, China has become a decisive enabler of Russia's war against Ukraine. And China's support increases the threat Russia poses to Euro-Atlantic security.
So how would you comment on this masterpiece?
Well, if I have to choose, let's say, two words to describe this, I would choose village idiot, because this is nothing more than that. Because Jens Stoltenberg is acting as a village idiot from the NATO, and NATO overall became nothing more than a joke. They became the laughing stock of the world. During the 80s, they were really strong organization. They had a respectable and respectful leaders. But nowadays, it's just a joke. Look who are the leaders of those countries that belong to NATO, and everything is perfectly clear. So yeah, they're accusing China of enabler of the war in Ukraine, but the only thing that they need is they need to look at the mirror.
Well, I think these people are thinking that all of the people of the world have such short memory that they don't recall events which took place like 10 and more years ago. So if we replay it to 2014, we can see that it was prepared in advance.
Yeah, it's clear. They once upon a time they had a really good planners that they don't plan year by year. They plan decades, almost centuries in advance. So this war in Ukraine, 2014, war that started 2014, was planned 1950s, and the whole NATO worked on toward that. This is just a culmination. There was a test bed of war in Yugoslavia to check the concept. They tried with the smaller forces. They got a conclusion that they can win this kind of war. But what happened? We see now. They're bogged down into the war that is going to last for a long time. Now they're trying to get in, but they don't want to get in because they have fools to die for them, unfortunately. And Ukrainian leadership, they got trapped in that. They were paid or who knows what. But bear in mind, this was planned since 1950s. This is just a culmination, the final stage. Nothing happened overnight, especially not with NATO. Once upon a time, they had a very good planning teams that planned in advance for decades, years and decades. But now there is a culmination, but this culmination is not going according to their wishes.
Yeah, and here I would like to show one screenshot. It is made from George Soros' article of 1993, where he is saying that Eastern Europe in general could be used to minimize the risk of body bags coming to NATO countries. So if we connect all these things together, then we get.
There are many dots, and when you connect those dots, you will see the very clear path to the situation as it is today. So Soros, Rothschilds, bankers, military-industrial complex, with the corrupted generals, even more corrupted politicians, everything is going to one direction. The world is splitting apart. Fortunately, splitting apart, because if everybody followed those Western doctrines, we'll be in really, really serious trouble. Now the world is splitting apart, and we have a rise of those who are not woke anymore, who really realize that the world should be something different.
Yeah, and well, speaking about planned war of a sort, here is a statement by Scholz, German chancellor, who says that it is okay that NATO wants to place long-range missiles on German territory. Well, when I first read this news, I thought, well, do they really want a war or something?
Yeah, I mean, politicians, military-industrial complex executives, they're all dancing in the same bowl. So that's the point is in inflicting the fear, trying to get society electrified with this kind of artificial crisis is something that keeps these lunatics in power. We now have much more dangerous situation because during the Cold War there were clashes between the superpowers, but those people were way more reliable, way more smarter than the current politicians. Now, current Western politicians are just a bunch of lunatics that working for military-industrial complex and for the World Economic Forum. So we have economical slavery and military slavery, and the war, as I mentioned previously, the world split apart. There is a BRICS, global South that had enough of this brainwashing from the West. And as a time, it's not anymore a matter of years that is going to split apart completely. It will take maybe several months, up to a year. But this is the trend that can be stopped. Western politicians, all they need is to have to be on the power. And I can tell you, there is many games, behind the scene games, beneath the table deals, payments, and all of that stuff that is going on. We, ordinary people, we have no idea what is going on there. They're keeping us in fear. They're keeping artificial crisis. And that trend is going to continue. We will always have somebody else to blame than those so-called leaders that we, let's say, elected.
Yeah, because I was talking to one of my friends who lives in the US, and he was saying, oh, it's people's fault that it is happening. But I told him, when you are working, you have to work overtime to make sure that you receive the same amount of money that you received like 10 years ago. And you practically have no time to be engaged in politics. You even don't have a chance to raise your head and analyze what is happening.
Exactly.
That's
Look what happened. Yeah. Look what happened with that vaccine policy. How that was a test. That was one of the tests that they're going to inflict on us. We have to obey their wish and their orders, and they told us that this is for our own good. See, it is complete brainwashing of society, and it is not end. This is just the beginning, and it is going to get worse, much worse.
And what is also interesting to me, here's one news that NATO allies are discussing reclaiming some Chinese-owned infrastructure in Europe because they are afraid that China might use it to help Russia in case there's some kind of conflict. Well, it is like economical death of Europe because
Exactly.
First they withdrew Russian funds. And I think a couple of days ago, I read in a newspaper that Bin Salman said that if European government will take away Russian assets, then Saudi Arabia will withdraw all the funds, like all the debt papers.
Exactly. So Europe will be finished. US will be finished. So the Western banking system will be finished. Kaput, done, конец, ende. So that is something. These lunatics, they're playing that games. They're trying to see how it will be, how the world will react. But if China, Saudi Arabia, BRICS countries, if they withdraw their money or their assets in Western banks, it's over. Game over. Europe will become worse than any of those colonial countries. So if they do that, well, so be it. We have to go back home then. Because this will be not third world. It will be garbage of history will become North America and Western Europe, dumpster of the world.
Yeah, but what I wanted to ask, like it's a bit of technical question, I think. According to NATO summit results, when they said that we're going to place long-range missiles in Germany and also some hypersonic missiles. Do they really have hypersonic missiles, or they plan to, I don't know, produce some until the time that they will supply them to Germany? Or and how will that look? Because I remember the last year that Pro system was mentioned, it was 2021. I googled it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, because I remember Pro, that противоракетная оборона, anti-missile defense, which was supposed to be made like against Iran, as the US said, not against Russia. But now it's obviously against Russia, so nobody even hides that fact anymore. So what are the chances of that Pro to withstand Russian strike if it occurs? And what kind of hypersonic missiles could NATO supply, like place in Germany? Is it possible in general?
Yeah, they have fantastic hypersonic missiles. Excellent. Everything is working perfect. Everything is top notch, top of technology, but everything is still on paper. And a few other, besides a few other prototypes, they're lagging behind Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. They're lagging behind for a decade. They can talk about it. NATO is all about talking and bullying, in interfering in the businesses of the small countries, of the small men, small people, small nations. But when it comes to really tough guys to deal with, NATO will just go back with the tail between their legs. Simply, they have all of the stuff that I mentioned. Everything looks fine. There are billions and billions of dollars of investment, project teams, project managers, cost control, document control, name it. Everything is going toward that. But when it comes to the push the button and test the stuff, nothing is working, because everything is really one big money laundering scam, money laundering machine. They can do that if they just switch to work on or copy a Russian and Chinese model. But bottom line, those who produce the hypersonic missiles or who developing hypersonic missiles, right down Boeing or whoever, doesn't really matter. There are just few players. In their board of directors, former generals, admirals, lobbying for their stuff. They're paying Congress people, Senate people. Bear in mind that Senate and Congress are two biggest brothels in the world. All services, highest paid services are available there. So they can do everything for money. But technically, yes, they have quality people, but the whole organization is rotten, to say. It's not working. It simply doesn't working, and they're lagging behind. And there is no chance that they can catch up with the Russian, Chinese, or even North Korean development. They can talk about placing short-range or medium-range missiles in Europe. Yeah, so be it. Let's place that. Let's place everything. Let's bring 1,000 nuclear warheads in Germany or Italy or maybe even Turkey. Well, and see. Those countries will become nothing more than targets. And if the war starts, unfortunately, if the war starts one day, and we are going to that direction, Russia is not going to launch one or two. Russia is going to launch 7,000 warheads to them. And that will be over. Game over.
Yeah, and by the way, I wanted to mention, as we are talking about NATO lagging behind Russia, this week, 2 days ago, there was a report by Zvezda News, but other news agencies also reported that FSB prevented terrorist attack against 3 high-ranked military personnel of Ministry of Defense. Those people, they were working in development of defense systems. And it was a man born in 1994 who organized the delivery of explosives, and he was detained by FSB, and he was recruited by SBU. But I don't think that SBU was behind that. I think other intelligence.
Somebody who is much more serious than SBU. Somebody who is much more serious than SBU. SBU is just executive, but they're not executive in making decisions, but executive to doing the legwork and footwork. So SBU is nothing more. SBU is formidable service. Let's be honest. It's formidable service, well-organized service, but they're supervised, and all directions are coming from somebody on a much higher level. Look, Canadian Embassy, U.S. Embassy, British Embassy, those places are the one that hold all of those intelligence officers, intelligence operators, and Langley, London are doing all of those plannings. It's almost like a public secret in intelligence world. I'm not member of intelligence community, but you don't need to be a member to realize that. So those high, it will be actually, it is going to become worse because they're going to copy Mossad model of assassination or attempt of assassination of key people in the development sector in Iran. This is that model worked, and probably is still working. So they want to copy that model, but on much larger scale because they have unlimited budget behind them, simply unlimited budget. So anyway, we will see what is going to happen. But you know what, as FSB is not going to stay idle.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's 100% sure.
And moreover, there were also two episodes which happened also. Maybe they didn't happen this week exactly, but this week they were reported also by Zvezda News. Like first one is that military man was told by Ukrainian intelligence. He was serving at military ship Admiral Kuznetsov, and he was trying to be recruited by Ukrainian intelligence to make an explosion on Admiral Kuznetsov. But he reported that to his command, and they staged the explosion and sent a video to that person who was like working for SBU, as he said. And the other occasion was an attempt to like steal the that big. I forgot the model.
22M3.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long-range bomber plane.
They were successful.
How would you comment on that?
They were successful once. They convinced the deserter to steal Mi-17, I believe. But you know, SVR and FSB, they found the guy. They killed the guy basically, and he deserved that. To be honest, he deserved it. He was a traitor. I have no doubts that that SBU or GRU they are doing that stuff, or GUR actually to be more precise. They are doing that stuff. They are trying to recruit people. They have people in Russia, but vice versa. Russia has a people in the ranks of GUR or SBU. So yeah, it's a cat and mouse game, and it will be more and more. But now GUR and SBU, they are supported in order to and trained by CIA, MI6, maybe even Mossad. Who knows? It's a bit tricky to talk about Mossad. You know, there's certain things that you never mentioned regarding to them. But yeah, it's intelligence work is never ending, 24/7, every day, every night. So there is, and it will be more attempts. And you know, I heard the story. I don't have the confirmation because I was not. I didn't have time to check that, but it was attempts before. I think to convince a pilot of Su-34 to defect to the west, but they staged actually the same one. And when everything were organized to receive their plane in Ukraine, Russians actually instead of Su-34 they sent Iskanders. But you will never read that. Yeah, you will never read that in a paper because these are classified things, and these things will be they classified 25 or 50 years from now, or maybe never. It's simply a nature of work, but 100%, 150%, intelligence is working 24/7. It's harder as ever.
Yeah, on both sides, of course.
On both sides, yeah. Plus, you have a so-called neutral. You have a Chinese intelligence, Iranian intelligence, Mossad is around, North Koreans are around. Everything is around. You even have Estonian intelligence, which is joke. But you know what? It's there's. I would never disregard anyone, even Estonians.
Well, yes, because some of them might have that Soviet school, so there might be professionals among them.
Exactly,
too.
especially the older, my generation who grew up in that period of 80s, who get educated in 80s, who passed the service in 80s. So those people maybe are on some of the leading positions. I'm not talking about like junior staff, which are more woke than and those rainbow colors or whatever. So they're useless anyway.
Yeah.
Except of the pushing papers, but they are professionals in the field.
And
Real good professionals.
Because I remember I used to communicate, well, not for a long time. He was my neighbor, man. He is now long time. He passed away now, but he was in his 80s, and he was once serving in KGB in Latvia, and he managed to like preserve that clarity of thought. And sometimes when I talk to him, it seems to me that he is like in his 30s because of clear speech and of everything else. He was very like smart and very like witted, I'd say.
People in intelligence are recruited on the merit during the Soviet times. So it was not like somebody who has the connections. People really need to be capable to do their stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely, I absolutely believe that. Absolutely is true, because those people, they are now in people, let's say, who started career in beginning of the 80s or mid 80s. Now they're keeping key positions. If somebody, maybe some of them are retired, the past away or whatever, but that generation in 80s who started service in 80s are now on the key positions in almost every country, regarding to that intelligence work. And this is the murky world. This is something that you will hardly ever heard about, no, even less read about that.
I only hope that there are professionals on both sides, because when a professional is dealing against the other professional, then there is a low chance of risk to like people around them. But if amateurs, but if amateurs are in the
Russian, Chinese, North Koreans, yes, professionals. Western, yes, they're professionals. But the problem is when politicians get into that game. Politicians tend to move those professionals aside to try to do work for them so that they digest this information to politicians. And on one side, especially in the West, those politicians, they're working on the briefing notes from the intelligence community. Now that middleman or middle guy that is getting information from to the real intelligence of operatives and analysts, digest that information and serve that information to the middleman. Middleman is the one who can reiterate that stuff, who can tailor that stuff to send to give that to politicians. So those middlemen are actually running the show. Not middlemen by the age, but rather by function. So they're the one who are dealing with the darker side. Politicians are they're expendable. They're toilet paper, basically. Use and toss. Some of them can last longer, of course. You can use multiple wipes, but those who are behind, who are not on the top of those intelligence communities, but they're the ones who are chief of departments or head of departments. They're the ones who basically pull the shots. Politicians just barking what they serve to them.
Yeah, and here is one example. Well, I don't like of making maybe fun of elderly people, but as I was explained by my American friends, Biden deserves that. So I will play this video.
I'm going to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
Well,
yeah, a laughing stock of the world. Simply laughing stock of the world. But you know what? Maybe his mind is working in a different way. So he's telling the truth, at least in the first part of his speech. But look at those NATO politicians. they started to applaud because it's almost like a natural reaction of those politicians when the big boss talking, they just stand still and applaud. It's funny. It's such a brainwash laughing stock of the world.
And well, what is really sad, I don't know to what extent he's authorized to really make any orders, but if that is the person who called the key to nuclear weapon launch, well, I think we are in big trouble. But I have heard that Democratic Party is now trying to convince him to take off the election because I think he's
Incapable.
unable to run the country anymore.
Yeah, but he's not running the country. Those behind him are running the country. Military-industrial complex, Rothschild, and those who order Rothschilds what to do. So those are the ones who run the West. President is just a well-paid and exposed puppet. This is the real story of U.S. politics. So he might be on a paper the first one, but no, he's not. Especially not Biden, and it's more and more evident. So there is somebody who is pulling his strings, moving him. Now that in the U.S. actually there is like a patriotic side of patriots that are fighting those for those who actually support Biden. So it will be very interesting to see if elections will even come in November, because who knows what is going to happen. So in U.S. you say like as Trump once said, like a swamp. This is swamp with all of those Congress and the Senate people, corruption skyrocketing sky level, and on the other side there's true American patriots, which are live between East and West Coast. So the true American patriots are probably from 100 miles from the East Coast and 100 miles from the West Coast. Real Americans, hardworking people. Everything else is just a Hollywood PR. All of those media moguls or whatever. So who knows what is behind? And those people, they're the real rulers. They're the ones who put presidents, who create wars, and of course, don't forget the military-industrial complex. Those guys who are making money. Follow the money, and you will see who is ruling the country.
Yeah, that's true. And now they are trying to fight China. And by the way, here is a China response. I've taken it from one Telegram channel. I know this like author personally. He is lives in Hong Kong for a long time. Mm-hmm. And here, what he had to say about China's response to NATO threats. Because they were threatening Russia. Russia has already, I think, got used to those threats, and they just reply in some Dmitry Medvedev said that if NATO is on its way to NATO, then we have to make sure that Ukraine and NATO does not exist anymore. But China is more like
more polite, more diplomatic.
More polite.
Dima is hardcore. He doesn't have limits. And not NATO and all of those Western oligarchs. I'm calling it intentionally Western oligarchs because it's the masters of money laundering and that stuff. They're lucky that Dima is not a president of Russia, because it will be completely different. Yeah, Chinese. Yeah, it's a 5,000 years of culture, politeness. So yeah, for 5,000 years their civilization is thriving. So yeah, and they will continue to thrive because they have leaders. Their leaders taking care of their people. So yeah, but Chinese answer is polite but firm.
Yeah, but what I like the most about it is that as a reaction to the ultra-tough statements of the following the NATO summit, China is considering limiting the supply of weapon components and auxiliary systems to Ukraine and countries that openly support military assistance to the Ukraine. So I think it's, in this case, it will be impossible to accuse China of supporting the war. So this was like a very good point here.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to remind the public. There was one article in the news a long time ago. They said that China is trying to hide submarines in the sea. trying to hide submarines in the sea. So that is the state of mind of Western media.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, trying to
I
point the
remember
submarine. Yeah.
I remember there was a joke, like in Russian, it says "подводная лодка в степях Украины," like a submarine in the steppes of the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
China was supposed to hide submarines in a similar way.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, one more masterpiece about China, it's by the Telegraph that they are saying that China is building a secret military base in Tajikistan, and there they are claiming that in this article they are claiming that yes, NATO is afraid of Taliban, and NATO is building a base in Tajikistan to keep control of Muslims inside China. So such heavy anti-Chinese rhetorics, they added up this year significantly.
Yeah, you can see the pattern. All of those so-called mainstream media, they're pushing those narratives against Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. But when you look on that scientific side, how many Chinese are leading scientists in the U.S.? How many scientific publications are published? How many books are published on the top, let's say, top military subjects that have Chinese authors? So China is building the base. As soon as they know where the base is, it's not secret anymore. But NATO or US, they have 800 bases around the world. But China is doing something meticulously, slowly but meticulously. So it's the same way. I want to put a parallel between the Chinese scientists and all of those authors and the Chinese politics. They're building up. They build the system. Now Chinese scientists from the US, they're going back home because they had enough. They want their families to live in the normal country, not in the country where, I don't know. You just look at all of those YouTubes and you will see why. So China is doing something slowly but steady, and NATO is trying always to push something. All of those bases they require maintenance. There's a huge billions and billions contracts to maintain it, for the maintenance of those bases. Some of that money is going to the local leadership, local politicians. Some of them staying with the contractors. Some of them are coming back to the pockets of military-industrial complex, Pentagon, and of course, nothing is going on without the approval of the Congress and Senate. Yeah, so it's a big, one of the biggest schemes since the beginning of time.
But you know what's worrying me? Do these people ever think of the future, or they think that the world ends tomorrow?
Yes, they think of they're very worried about the future, but their own, not the rest of the mankind. So they're doing the best what they can do for themselves. But no, if that stuff doesn't fit to the normal, ordinary people, yeah, so be it for them.
Because I'm trying to connect the things that happened around me, like in my head, and I try to find logical reasoning for the things that happen, and personally, I cannot find it anymore. Yeah. Because what NATO is doing, because what NATO is doing, okay, they remind me of that fairy tale of a boy who was crying out, "Wolves, wolves!" And when wolves really came, nobody came to rescue him because they got used that that boy was like tricking everyone. And I think same happens with NATO. They are crying that, oh, Russia will assault us, China will assault us. In fact, nobody wants to assault them. That's the fact. Everyone just wants to live their own life.
Yeah, just live and let others live. So that's becoming more simpler. But those who rule the world, they need to have they need to have the tools. NATO is just a tool, like a Federal Reserve is the tool. And that stuff, as I mentioned previously, it's not something that is invented yesterday or 10 years ago. That stuff, monetary stuff, started 100 years ago. NATO is 75, whatever. It's This is something that was planned by somebody. Those who pull the strings, people, leaders, they're just the pawns in that scheme, that game.
Okay. And there is one more topic I wanted to discuss with you. It is, first of all, it's attack on Sevastopol beach. And it will go in connection with, the topic that everyone is in the West very outraged about. It's about like strike of Russian missile on Ukrainian children's hospital. I know you're writing an article about that.
Yes.
We'll be looking forward to what your investigation would be. But here, in DPR, they compared the attack on Sevastopol with shelling of beach in Zagres. Those who don't know, there was terrible shelling of the beach in 2014. 13 people got killed, and among them 3 children, and 30 civilians were injured. It was a deliberate attack by AFU on civilians. And the same, nearly the same tragedy occurred not that long ago in Sevastopol, where also the beach was shelled. I think it was at a camps missile.
Yes. 8 items. What really happened? They launched missiles with a trajectory to go over the beaches. So, if Russia intercept those missiles, debris, the Ukrainians hope that those debris will fall on the, let's say, dense packed areas which are by the sea. If the missiles go through, they will hit the designated target. So win-win situation for them. Now, the third possibility that I believe is the most accurate is that it was actually an intentional activation of the warhead above the beach, because and the reason for that is that the spraying pattern of those cluster munition is something that will happen during the intended use. So it's not like a missile was hit and a portion of warhead disintegrate, scattering on the random way, those stuff. So when you look at the pattern, it's just several seconds how they hit the water and the beach itself. It is something that was controlled spread. That is as it should be during those launches and the programmed activation. So I believe this is intentional attack on the beach to cause as many civilian casualties as possible. There were other missiles that going to the base. So Ukrainians and NATO planners, they know that Russia, by trajectory, they can calculate where will be the impact point. And they can act accordingly. So Russia intercept that stuff going to the military installation, military base, but they didn't intercept the one that was intended for the civilian, to attack the civilian population, simply because it was not imminent danger to the base. So there is a difference in trajectory, tiny. But computer system and the radar system, they can basically plot 99.9 accuracy of the impact point.
Yeah, and what I have read that if air defense system is working with 60% efficiency, that is already very good result. And how would you evaluate Russian anti-missile protection?
Yeah, I mean they're getting more than 60%, far more than they're between the 80 to 90%. Bear in mind, there is no unpenetrable system. So this is something that Russia is doing really good job with that. And you can see the pattern of those attacks. It's not like a one ballistic missile or one cruise missile attack. This is like a swarms. They launch in one package everything that they can scramble of that area. So between 6 and 12, maybe sometimes even more, because they're hoping that out of that number, maybe few will go through. So Russia is now scrambling to develop the tactic to intercept on the different parts of the trajectory. So now they have S-500, in Crimea. So that will accept 200 kilometers or even more. They have S-400. They have books. They have shorts. So of course, shorts are not intended for the ballistic missile, but books can do against the cruise missiles. Shorts can do against the cruise missiles, but against ballistic missiles, that is S-300 V4, which is army stuff, and S-400, which is air defense stuff. And of course, they have S-500. So Russia is adapting. Russia is learning. And bear in mind, warfare is not a template. It's not something that is. It's always it's look like it is. Russia is very good in adapting to the situation. Learn fast and adapt fast.
And how would you comment Ukrainian claims that all the missiles have been hit? But at the same time, there are fires outbreak like in Kiev and in other places.
Yeah, it's a simple explanation. So they said that all missiles were intercepted, downed, but they don't specify are they downed by missiles or they hit the target. So not a single one of those missiles returned to Russia. So 100% of them finished on the Ukrainian soil. So 100% of them are intercepted in some, let's say, quasi theoretical explanation. But the point is, they will never say that it is simply for the Western public and their own some of their own public. They know what is going on. People see all the time. This on the TV, Ukrainian TV, they said that they intercept all missiles, but explosions are everywhere, as you mentioned. So somebody is lying, and but even in that lying, it should be some kind of planning, not just jump in telling something that is ridiculously stupid. I intentionally said ridiculously stupid because even propaganda need to have some dose of reality. If they said, let's say, we intercepted 70% of attacks, but some of them passed and hit, people will start to believe them. Of course, I'm not talking about charlatans that believe everything that Ukrainians write. I want to be honest. Also, there is some overestimating things in Russia, but at least Russia, you can verify information against each other. And it's far less propaganda than it is actually in Ukraine. Ukraine, everything is in that TV show, like, and with all of that TV propaganda, you see who is running the show. Hollywood. Behind all of that is Hollywood style running the show.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that they're not downing targets. Yes, they're downing. They're successful, but I would say the top 20%. From information that I have from my private contacts, which has really good contacts in Ukrainian AD, people that are on high-ranking positions in AD. So yeah, I would say up to 20%.
Mm-hmm. And one more question I have heard multiple times from different experts who say that one of the problems of the Ukrainian air defense is that they place those launchers in the populated areas, so they know that Russians don't hit like residential buildings and so on, and they hide
Yes.
those
That's true.
launchers in the between own citizens practically.
Yes, that's true. Ideally, they should put all of those launchers outside of the cities so that they can intercept in depth. But their weaker side, and they're using everything. And there's always that political stuff. If Russia hits some of those launchers in the city, they can always say that Russia hit the building, hit the civilians. And there are several pictures that people can find looking on the net, how the artillery and the launchers are beside the buildings. The other thing is they are firing indiscriminately over the cities. That is the biggest problem in air defense. There are terms like forbidden launch or forbidden zone of engagement. I'm translating that from the original terminology. So what that means? Usually positions over the airport, civilian space over the airports, cities, towns, whatever. They're kept as a non-engagement zone. Why? Because if they hit the target over that those places, warhead may explode, may fail and explode in the city. Missile may miss, not self-liquidate and fell on the city, causing the casualties. It happened numerous times in Ukraine. I wrote that in my book. It happened numerous times. Probably it happened, something similar happened most recently. But if they have order to engage any target, anytime, anywhere, that forbidden launch or forbidden zone of engagement is gone, doesn't exist anymore. So everything, whenever they see target, they will shoot it. Doesn't matter, is it over the downtown Kiev or Kryvyi Rog or Lviv or whatever, they will engage it. In Russia, you will not see that because they are not hitting target over Sevastopol. They're intercepting that before it reach the zone over the city or over the bases. They're trying to engage that over, and they have that forbidden launch of the certain areas. In Ukraine, more and more they simply said shoot whatever is in the air, period. So no restrictions.
Yeah. And so they are prioritizing military like objects. They're not protecting own citizens, but they are protecting military objects.
Yeah, because that is their task: industrial and military, high value industrial and military objects. Once upon a time, after the dissolution of Soviet Union, Ukraine has the strongest air defense. Taking into consideration density of the number of units and the territory. That was beginning of 1990s. Even in 2022, it was the second one in Europe. After all corruption, all stuff that went bad there. And NATO, if NATO has to fight Ukraine instead of Russia, NATO would never fly over Ukraine, never. Because Ukraine Americans like to say that formidable air defense. And yes, their air defense is formidable. Numerous. They had so many launchers. They have very well trained people to do that. So I'm professionally, yes, they're very competent. They have problems with equipment, with the weapons, with the missiles, but they're doing what they can. If they were ordered not to engage over the cities, they will never fire missile that can somehow deviate from the trajectory, lost guidance, lost control, and slam into the civilian buildings. But most likely, highly likely, the order is engage anything that is flying on any altitudes, from 100 meters shahid or 50 meters shahid or drones attacks to trying to intercept hypersonic missiles. So like a free hunting zone.
But in theory, can a hypersonic missile be intercepted by, like, say, Patriot anti-missile system?
In theory, yes, but in Ukraine, I don't think so. In theory, yes, if ideal parameters are met from both the trajectory of the missile and trajectory of the interceptor, but in reality, no. Nothing of those missiles, hypersonic missiles or even Iskander missiles, were hit or destroyed. They destroyed cruise missiles, they destroyed drones, in the significant number, up to 20%. But no, they didn't intercept hypersonic stuff. And I have that information from Ukraine, from the site. Everything else is just a PR. And I remember who I told you is running the show. Regarding to that marketing.
And one more, like, questions on hypersonic missiles and missiles in general. If missile got intercepted, so it is destroyed, but is that debris that remains, is it of any value to engineers on the enemy side, so they can learn something from it?
It depends. For instance, if the missile is hit, like ATACMS, if it's hit and guidance system is not damaged, yeah, they can extract information. They can see how it's built. They can even get to some software. They can connect it. I've done that in 1990s. I collect a lot of those debris from cruise missiles, from harms like anti-radiation missiles, for the sake of identifications. And for me, it was particularly interesting to see the decoys. What kind of motherboard is in the decoy? What kind of chips they're using for that? What kind of electronic circuits are using there? Yeah, there are methods. But you know what? It's one thing is when small countries doing that, and another thing is when countries that have institutes. Everything is useful. And if you see, for instance, Storm Shadow, which is almost intact, within almost intact interior. Oh yeah, that will be. I would like to spend time with screwdriver and wrenches, examining that stuff and checking with electronic components. And actually, and vice versa. When we talk about hypersonic missile, the velocities, 5+ max, and the Kinzhal, for instance, is going 7, 8, 9, even 10 max, maybe even more. It's still secret. Those information are still secret, so we are just speculating. PAC-3, for instance, can fly 5 max to 4.5 to 5 max. Imagine two solid bodies collide with a combined speed of, let's say, 15 to 20 max. It will be complete. It will be disintegration. And if for instance, Ukrainians show like a warhead with a crack, with that speed, it's a pure mechanics. It's mechanics and dynamics. Just plug the formulas, and you will see what kind of energy is exchanged in that kind of collision. And probably in reality, everything will be just dust, turn into dust. The other thing is, for instance, if the missile is intercepted and the warhead is not destroyed, that warhead will continue to some random trajectory, and the chances to explode hitting anywhere, random position, are really high, because to destroy the ballistic missile, the one need to destroy the warhead. This is the key. If they destroy the engine, the rest of will just continue flying on the random trajectory and hit anywhere. They can hit anywhere. And most importantly, if the warhead is not destroyed, it will be activated during the impact.
So it will turn from a missile into a free falling bomb.
Yeah. But basically, those fragments will continue with a slightly lighter speed than before the impact, but they're projectiles. Technically, they're projectiles.
I see. And say if there are now concerns about NATO like starting a nuclear war against Russia. Some people from people who I communicate with expressed such concerns. And as far as I understand, most of the nuclear warheads which US possessed, they are placed on the bomber planes, so they are in form of bombs. So what happens if bomb is intercepted? Is it possible to intercept such a bomb, and what happens if it is hit by air?
It is possible. I mean, but those bombs, those free fall bombs, the bomber flying over the target, that nobody's going to apply that. Missiles are now the delivery. Bombers can have cruise missiles launching them 1,000 kilometers from the target or 2,000 kilometers from the target. So nobody's going to fly over the target and drop the bomb. If, for instance, cruise missile with the nuclear warhead is intercepted, there is a chance. It's hard to talk about the precise percentage, but there is a chance that nuclear warhead may be activated. Bear in mind, nuclear warhead on ballistic missiles, after a certain speed, after the launch, accelerometers will arm that warhead. So a warhead is not armed when it's in the submarine or in the silo or in the plane. After the launch and achieving the certain speed, there's a procedure to arm that warhead, so that it's really become the warhead. And if, for instance, a fragment or missiles of the missile hit that warhead directly, it's quite possible it will create explosions.
I see. And the final question about like missile and projectiles. I have heard an opinion by Andrei Martyanov. He told that last year. I don't know if he was writing about that in English, but I heard his like Russian interview, and he said that Russia has such alloys which NATO countries do not have, and that alloys, they play a significant role in building of the missiles. Is it
Yes.
really
Yeah,
true?
it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's true. This is true because Russian metallurgy, is on the higher level, and it's alloy. Somebody, for instance, if they find the piece, they can send to the lab. They can do the chemical analysis, spectrographic analysis. They can dissect that stuff. But it's a different thing to have that piece and analyze that, and to have the real procedure how to make that piece. That is the secret. Metallurgy is actually the secret how you make that alloy. You can check what kind of elements you have in that alloy, but how that elements are combined, under which temperature conditions, which cooling conditions, how long, that is something which is secret. It's almost like a dish. You have a meal. You have a meat, you have a vegetables, you have a bread or whatever. But so these are components. But how you combine those components is something that give the charm of that meal. And the
Exactly.
the same is with alloys. So metallurgy is the crucial in this stuff, and this is the closest guarded secret.
Yeah, and it's like a perfect secret of perfect shashlik. You take the meat and everything you have in the right proportions, and then you have it.
But Russian and Chinese, they actually developed the system how they can reverse those kind of findings. But still, it's not even that is completely accurate, because you mentioned that stuff. Can they use components? Yes, the components will be sent. Components will be analyzed. Then the different people will do the stuff. So the electronic guys will do electronic components. Metallurgists will do what kind of alloys are there. But for that, you need to have the capacities to do that. And metallurgy in Russia and China, they're on the higher level, I would say, than in the West. So absolutely, Andre is right.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can finish today because it's Friday. It's Friday evening here, and it's shashlik time for most of the people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for very interesting discussion and for very interesting answers. Well, bye-bye, everyone. It was nice seeing you. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.